So looking here at the bottom half of the Chapter 10 study guide, 6 and 7 are very similar. So I'll go ahead and I'll do number 6 in a minute. And then 8 and 9 are similar. In fact, 8 is actually an additional step on top of 9. So if you can do 8, you can also do 9. And then 10 and 11 are very similar. So I'll go ahead and do 10. So I'm going to do 6, 8, and 10 here. So let's start off with number 6. Number 6 is asking for a few steps. Now, the first thing it wants us, or we're going to need to figure out, are what are these total closing costs? We have $65, we have $120, we have $300, but then we have to do a couple of things to figure out the next one. So the document stamp, it looks like it's 3% of the total loan, and the total loan here we don't yet know. So we need to figure out what the total loan is. So to find the total loan, we do just like we did at the top part of the page, and we have to first find the down payment. So it says here that the down payment amount is the cost of the item times the rate required down, and the cost of this house is, or condo, or whatever it is $129,000, and the rate required down is 15%. So I'm going to go 129 times that 0.15, and you'll see that it gives me a down payment of $19,350. And then to find the loan amount, remember, we take the cost of the item and we subtract the down payment. And so that tells me that the loan amount here is going to be $109,650. So what I will do for number 6 is the 3% of the mortgage, or the amount that's being mortgaged or borrowed. So it's 3% times 109,650, and that's going to give me it looks like $3,289.50. And then we have 1% times that same 109,650, and that's going to give me $1,096.50. And then the last part is their loan origination, which is 2%, so 0.02 times that same 109,650, and that's going to give me $2,193. So I need to add the $65, the $120, the $300, the $3,289.50, the $10,000 or $1,096.50, and the $2,193. And when I add all of those up, I have a total closing cost amount of $7,064. So in this problem, it's asking me, what is the total amount that you're going to borrow if you're borrowing the closing costs right here, and you're borrowing this mortgage amount that we determined after the down payment. So the total amount that I'm borrowing is the 109,650, but it's also the 7,064 from the closing costs. So if I add all that together, the total amount that I'm borrowing is $116,714. So that is actually my answer for number 6, $116,714 even. So that gives me 6. 7 is very, very similar process. So let's now take a look at number 8. I'll do 8 over here to the right. So let's color coordinate it and make this green as well. So it says here, this is a property tax question. And so the first thing we need to do is figure out what the interest rate is. So it says that the interest rate is 7%, and it's saying that the loan is $95,000. And if we do that, the monthly payment works out to $736.25. So this is like the amortization type problems that we did. So if I owe $95,000 and the interest rate is 7% and the monthly payment is $736.25, how much of that money? So remember, we got our payment here, and our payment, which is $736.25, some of that goes toward the principal and some of that goes toward the interest. And so in this particular problem, it's asking how much goes toward the principal. So to do that, we have to take, remember, what do we owe, currently owe? So it's actually right, currently owe. And then we're going to, well, what we currently owe is 95,000. And then we're going to multiply that times our monthly rate. And that will give us how much goes toward interest. So the monthly rate is 0.07 divided by 12, remember, because 7% is the APR. We want the monthly rate. So we go 0.07 divided by 12. We will multiply that times 95,000. And that tells us that the amount that we pay in interest is $554.17. But that's not actually the question. The question is how much goes toward principal. So to find the principal amount, we take what the monthly payment is. Remember, the monthly payment is $736.25, and we subtract from that the amount that goes toward interest, which is $554.17. So we take our monthly, right, and we subtract our interest, and that's the monthly interest. That's where I get these numbers, and that's going to give me the amount that is in principal. And so the principal amount that is reduced this month is $182.08. That's our answer for number 8. $182.08 is how much our principal went down. So let's lastly look at number 10 here. We'll do this one in orange. Orange is a property tax problem. So to find the property tax, we first have to figure out what the assessment rate is. And it says that the assessment rate is 50% of the actual value. So let's do number 10 here. So we are going to take the value of the property, $132,000, and we will multiply that times the assessment rate. The assessment rate is 50%, which is 0.50. And that gives me $66,000. So essentially, the way to think of this is I'm going to be taxed on half of the actual value. So the assessed rate, or the assessed amount that I pay taxes on, is half of the value of the property. The property is worth $132,000. The assessment rate is 50%. So I pay taxes on $66,000, but I don't pay $66,000. I pay the tax rate on $66,000. So I find that I pay 48.75 mils. So that means I pay $48.75 for every $1,000 in assessed value. So if I have a $66,000 assessed value and I divide that by 1,000, that tells me how many thousands that I get assessed. So I'm going to get assessed on 66,000s, and the mill rate is $48.75 per thousand, and there's 66 of them. So I go 66 times $48.75, and that gives me a grand total of $3,217.50 that I pay in property tax this year.